Welcome to the Friday Night Campfire Stories. I am Rob, and I will be your host for this evening. I am a short story writer, and every single week here on YouTube, I cover one of the chapters from one of my stories. Each of my stories are 4 chapters long, meaning that we cover one story each month. And the first Friday of every single month, we start a brand new story. This is the first Friday of the month, meaning we are going to be getting into one of my brand new stories called Sliced. Sliced is about Chef Katie Thompson, who is struggling to find a personal life that matches her gourmet professional life. That is until one day she finally gets her chance to achieve a life of luxury. However, she quickly learns that sometimes achieving your dreams can lead to the biggest of nightmares. So that is all I'm going to tell you about the story. We're about to get right into it. I just want to say, if cooking's not really your thing, or you think the story wouldn't be for you, I just ask that you give it a chance. Get through the first chapter at least before you make that decision. Trust me, you'll thank me later. So, without further ado, we are going to be getting into it. This is Sliced. Sliced, Chapter 1. The kitchen of the Lumineer in New York City was a battleground of clattering pans and sharp knives, where every sizzle and chop echoed the intensity of its culinary ambitions. At its heart, Chef Katie Thompson labored tirelessly, her hands a blur of precise motions, creating a masterpiece under the oppressive gaze of Chef Otto Gannon. Otto, a tyrant in a pristine white coat, basked in the spotlight of magazine covers and TV interviews, while Katie's brilliance simmered in shadows, unacknowledged and overworked. It was a busy Friday night, and guests were piling in, everyone trying just to get a whiff of the food coming from this 6-star kitchen. This was no easy task, but Chef Katie was leading the charge to make sure every single dish came out perfect as the last. It had just gotten to the point where Chef Otto would just be standing at the pass like a statue, taking pictures with paying customers, signing autographs, everything but his job. Chef Katie always felt so discouraged about it. She had paid her way through culinary school and finished top of her class. She even had a local magazine talk about how she was going to be one of the top chefs in the world in a few years. Here we are a few years after the interview, and she's stuck here working under Chef Otto. Katie always felt like Chef Otto was gatekeeping her from the rest of the world because he didn't want to lose his prized possession. It kept him from being able to be a celebrity instead of a chef. For 5 years now, Katie has yet to see Chef Otto even pick up a knife, yet he makes 100 times her salary. Every time she asked for a raise, Chef Otto said that he would review her reports at a later time. Chef Katie had always wanted to leave for another restaurant, but when she would go to apply, she would never hear back from them. She felt for some reason Chef Otto was behind this too, but she couldn't prove it. This always got her down as she started doubting her skills. Every time she's in the kitchen, though, she puts all the negativity behind her and cooks with soul and love, as every talented chef does. After the restaurant closes at night, and all the chefs, other than Otto of course, stay behind to make sure the kitchen is as clean as when the kitchen was first built, Katie gets on the nearest subway and heads home for the evening. It always took her an hour to get home on a good night. Katie arrived at her apartment in Brownsville and walked past the elevator that had been out of commission since she first moved in. She would open the door to the stairwell and climb up the 12 flights of stairs to her tiny 100-square-foot apartment. Her apartment was a grim testament to the brutal reality of the New York City cutthroat housing market. Crammed into a claustrophobic 100 square feet, the space reeked of neglect and desperation. The single flickering overhead light cast a sickly yellow hue over the peeling wallpaper and stained linoleum floors, where a perpetual layer of grime seemed to immune to her futile cleaning efforts. The tiny kitchenette was a mockery of her culinary talents, with a rusty hot plate, a chip sink perpetually clogged with murky water, and a minuscule refrigerator that buzzed angrily, barely keeping her leftovers edible. Piles of unwashed dishes teetered precautiously as a casualty of her grueling work hours. In the corner, a rickety folding table served as her only dining surface, cluttered with unopened bills, half-eaten takeout containers, and a dying plant she had long given up on reviving. Her bed, a sagging mattress on the floor, doubled as her couch, its faded sheets and lumpy pillows offering a scant comfort after an 18-hour shift. The single window, smeared with city grime, offered a dismal view of the narrow air shaft filled with trash and the occasional rat, providing little natural light or ventilation. The air inside was thick with a mingling sense of cooking oil, mold, and the unmistakable stench of city filth that seeped through the thin walls. Every inch of the apartment screamed of compromise and survival, a stark contrast to a gleaming kitchen and gourmet dishes that defined her professional life. It was a constant reminder of how far she had to go to escape the oppressive weight of her current existence. Katie would get home and fall face first into her decaying mattress every single night from pure exhaustion and depression. She could only think of the situation she was in compared to Chef Otto, who would take his helicopter home to his penthouse suite across the street from the restaurant, being greeted by his butlers and maids who kept his residence spotless to the point that you could eat every meal off the floor. Katie would probably be crying herself to sleep every night if it wasn't for the fact that she had sweated every drop of moisture in her body during her 13-hour shift. Determined she would still get as good of a night's sleep as she could before waking up, taking a shower in the shared bathroom with the rest of the residents on the floor, putting her chef jacket on, and heading to catch the subway at Rockaway Ave station. Saturday was the busiest day of the week for the Lumineer. Not only would there be a chaotic crowd for the dinner service, but also a madhouse for the afternoon lunch service as well. 10 minutes until they would open their doors and the prep work was just about done, Chef Otto would gather up all the chefs. I want a perfect 12 hours here, no mess-ups, no complaints, and if one person sends a dish back, none of you will be getting paid for today, says Chef Otto. Remember, the food you make comes first. We don't want people waiting longer for their food than they have to, so your breaks, keep them to say maybe 1 5-minute break if we get slow. Now that we are all ready to go, I must go. I have an interview with the New York City Cuisine magazine, followed by a photo shoot. So Chef Katie, make sure everyone stays in line. Yes, Chef, responds Katie. Most people would freak out if their boss left them right before the floodgates open and customers would storm in demanding food. Chef Katie, however, was relieved to know that Chef Otto was not going to be there today. It was like a day off for her. Yes, it was going to be a stressful service, but at least she would be able to do it without the evil boss staring daggers into the back of her head. I need 1 risotto, 1 scallop for table 11, Katie calls out. Yes, Chef, the kitchen calls back. The kitchen felt so much comfortable with Chef Katie running everything. When Chef Otto was running things, it felt much more tense, having to make sure everything was perfect measurements, perfect sears, perfect techniques, all while having to do it as fast as possible, otherwise punishment would be foreshadowed. Whenever Katie ran the kitchen, everybody just did their job they knew how to do. These are the best chefs in New York City, after all. That is why they're here. Service was running smoothly, and all the guests loved the food. Everyone even got a break because the normal crowd that would sneak in just to see Chef Otto left unhappy when they found out he wasn't going to be there. Katie would grab her deli cup full of water and sit down. This felt like a day at the spa to her and for the rest of the chefs as well. This was the first time in months that they were able to take a break while at work. The break would not last long, though, as they had to start the prep work for the dinner service. Dinner service was always an adventure when Chef Otto was there. It was so hot in the kitchen that hell would have pity over the chefs who had temporary residence there. Katie was up for the challenge today, though, because she had an overwhelming confidence that she had lacked when Satan himself, aka Otto, was breathing down her neck. The rest of service went smooth as silk as no one returned their plate from the entire day, meaning that they would all be receiving payment for their hours worked. Everyone helped out and cleaned the kitchen, and they would all head home for the night. Katie made it to the platform to wait for the subway. She had a smile on her face. She was so proud of herself and how the kitchen performed today. She thought of all the compliments that she got from the customers, and she found a bit of happiness in what had been a pretty sad few years for her. As she was standing, waiting for the train, which was late again, she would hear footsteps walk up to her. "Hey, weren't you the chef running service at the Lumineer tonight?" asked the stranger. Katie was taken aback for a second, but responded, "Yes, I am. I'm usually the sous chef, but Chef Otto was out today." "I thought that was you. Let me say, that was some of the best food I've had in my entire life," the stranger explained. "I've had Lumineer multiple times. It's one of my favorites. When I went there tonight, I was worried it wasn't going to be as good because Chef Otto wasn't there, but you stepped up and delivered a meal I don't even think he could." Katie started blushing. "Why, thank you. It means the world to me to hear that." "Say, do you ever think about starting your own restaurant?" asked the nice man. "All the time," she says with excitement. "It's all I've ever dreamed of." "I'm glad to hear that. Let me introduce myself. My name is Cypress Whitlock. I thought that you kind of looked familiar. You're the guy from those reality shows, says Katie. Guilty, says Cypress. I'm actually getting ready to host a brand new show. A cooking show, to be exact. Let me ask, would you have any interest in being a contestant? Katie, trying to hold back anticipation, yells out, yes, I would love to have an opportunity to showcase my culinary abilities to the world. Cypress smiles at her. That's great to hear. I think you would make a perfect face to be a part of it. I haven't even told you the prize yet. For winning the competition, it's the biggest prize in the history of reality cooking show. The winner gets $1 million, and we will also be giving them their own restaurant, the location, the staff, everything else you would need for the first year to get started. Katie could not control her elation. This was it, the big break she needed. I need to be a contestant, Mr. Whitlock, she says. Katie would give her information to Cypress so the producers and the showrunners would be able to reach out to her. She would go home to that sickening apartment, and she'd dance around like she was Cinderella at the ball. Her dreams were about to come true. She started thinking of recipes and planning out everything to ensure that she would come out on top as champion. A few days had passed since meeting Cypress. Chef Otto came back to work the next day, and the kitchen lost its inspiring glow it had when Chef Katie was in charge. It went back to the dark pit of gloom that it normally was. Katie, however, was content with working because she knew that in a few days she'd be taking on some of the best chefs in the world for a chance to finally acquire a life that she felt she deserved. A week had passed, and Katie began to find a nervous pit in her stomach that she may have been lied to. She had not been reached out to. She checked her phone and email every 10 minutes in hopes that she would have details on the show. Nothing. 2 weeks passed, still nothing. After the third week, Katie still had no idea what happened. She started thinking maybe she dreamt the whole thing. She didn't have any way to reach out to anyone. She didn't even know what the name of the show was called. Down on her luck, she went to work every single day, each day getting more depressed at the thought that her ticket to life of luxury had expired. That was until one day when she had gotten off work and she made the long trip home. When she finally fell into her bed, her phone chirped. She had a new email. The email read, Dear Miss Thompson, we are glad to inform you that you have been selected to be a participant on a new reality cooking show set to air early next year. This program is to showcase the best chefs in the world. This show is set to start filming on Friday, so please make accommodations. You will be gone for at least 12 days, possibly more, depending on filming schedules. For this, because the cash prize is so big, there will be no compensation for appearing in the show. The winner will be the only one who receives any money. In other words, it's all or nothing. Attaches to your itinerary along with your flight ticket. Good luck, and we can't wait to watch your journey. Best wishes, Phil W., producer. Katie got the biggest whiff of relief anyone could have ever gotten, but it did come with a little worry. No compensation? Most shows give all the participants a little money just for showing up, but being paid nothing unless she wins? She would also be taking 2 weeks off of work, and she would be leaving in 2 days, meaning she could only give Otto a day's notice. She felt like this would not end well. If you do the show, you will never walk back in this restaurant again, said Chef Otto the next day after Katie broke the news to him. It is up to you. Either you be on this little show and lose immediately, or shut the hell up and start cooking like the little pissant chef you are. Katie was torn. She feared that losing her job meant that she would have to start over from scratch. Who knows what restaurant would let her cook in their kitchen? At the same time, this could be her big break. She was about to be on national television, and even if she lost, she had to put that on her resume. Surely there would be one executive chef out there that would be willing to bring her in. Plus, the thought of having her own restaurant if she wins would be her dream come true. Penne alla vodka, table 22, chef, now, screamed Chef Otto. He had been saying it for almost a minute straight while Chef Katie was having this dilemma in her head. Finally, Katie responded quietly, I quit. Katie realized it would be better to start over than deal with this egotistical, lazy, monstrous human being. What did you say, Chef? Asked Chef Otto. I quit, Katie says a bit louder before screaming it back at Chef Otto. I quit, Chef. That's fine. Go lose your stupid competition, and when you come back with nothing, you can eat the scraps out of my dumpster. You were never good at cooking anyway. You don't deserve to be called a chef, he yells as she disappears down the stairs going into the subway station. The next day, Katie went to the airport, looked at her plane ticket, and was worried it was fake. What if it was all a prank and she'd have no more job, no show, nothing? The plane ticket looked legit. It said one-way ticket to Los Angeles on it. She got to the gate. It was the pearly gates to heaven. Her dream was on the other side of this. She just had to scan the ticket. If it lights up green, it's real, and she was on her way to L.A. She slowly shows the phone to the ticket scanner, hand shaking, about to cry at the thought of how embarrassing it would be if it was fake. Finally, the scanner makes a buzzing noise. The screen lights up green, and Katie is walking on the plane and flying to Los Angeles. When Katie arrived in L.A., she was greeted by a cab driver with a piece of paper with her name on it. She went to him, and he brought her to this older hotel that kind of looked abandoned. She began to second-guess herself. As the doors opened to the car, she looked out and saw the other participants arriving. They, without a second look, grabbed their bags and walked inside. Katie followed. Inside, there was a registration table, signing in all the competitors. She got up to the table, and they gave her a piece of paper to sign. It's all the normal stuff that everyone has to sign when they participate in a reality show, says the lady at the table. The document reads, Terms and Conditions, Eligibility and Participation. Participants must be 18 years of age or older. Participants must comply with all rules and regulations set forth by the slice organizers. Assumption of risk. By signing this form, the participant acknowledges that they understand that the participation of the slice cooking competition involves inherent risk, including but not limited to cuts, burns, allergic reactions, and all other injuries associated with the show. The participants agree to assume all risk associated with participation in this competition. Release of liability. The slice cooking competitions, its organizers, sponsors, affiliates, and all employees shall not be held responsible or liable for injury and damages or losses incurred during or as a result of participation in this competition. The participant agrees to release, discharge, and hold harmless the slice cooking competition and its affiliates from claim, actions, or liability arising from their participation. Prize and awards. The participant acknowledges that only the winner of the slice cooking competition will receive the prize of $1 million, as well as everything needed to start their own restaurant for 1 year. After 1 year, the winner will be responsible for anything that has to do with the restaurant. No other participants will receive any form of compensation or award, monetary or otherwise, for their participation. Use of likeness. The participant grants the slice cooking competition the right to use their name, likeness, voice, biographical information for promotional and marketing purposes in any media format without further compensation. Confidentiality. The participant agrees not to disclose any confidential information related to the competition, including but not limited to recipes, judging criteria, and competition results to any third parties. Compliance with rules. Participants agree to abide by all rules and regulations established by Sliced. Failure to comply may result in disqualification. Katie agrees and signs the document. She is handed a welcome bag and a new chef's jacket for the show and walks inside. She gets to her hotel room, which is much bigger than her apartment she rents in New York. It actually smells nice, the walls aren't peeling, no bugs, and it's a much-needed upgrade for what she's used to. An hour after arrival, all the competitors are called to the ballroom, where they will be holding the competition. When Katie arrives, she is mesmerized by what she sees. A brilliant set with 12 different cooking stations, and she is in awe of everything. The main cooking area was dominated by a massive wooden table resembling a grand feasting table from the medieval era. It was surrounded by high-tech cooking stations equipped with the latest appliances, seamlessly integrated into a rustic design. Each station had a countertop made of polished dark wood, and above it, a wrought iron pot rack holding an array of gleaming copper pots and pans. The judges' table, positioned at the front of the set, was an imposing structure carved from dark oak, with intricate designs of vines and mythical creatures. Behind the judges, a large banner bearing competition's crest, a stylized chef knife crossed with a spoon, a set against a backdrop of flames, hung proudly, symbolizing the culinary battle to be waged. The pantry, set into a recess of stone wall, was a sight to behold. It was filled with barrels, crates, and shelves overflowing with the finest ingredients from all around the world. Fresh herbs were displayed in clay pots, and spices were kept in glass jars, each carefully labeled. The overall look was both abundant and organized, with a medieval market vibe. Standing in front was the host of the show, Cypress Whitlock. Next to him stood two tall men who were dressed in knight's armor and holding prop axes. The two men towered over Cypress and were very intimidating. Welcome to Sliced, a cooking show where you 12 participants will go to battle where only one can be the winner. With the other 11 will be sliced and go home with absolutely nothing, says Cypress. At this point, the guards start making their demonic laughing noises. Katie knew it was only for show, but it did make the hairs on her neck stand up. This is the most intense cooking competition the world has ever seen. The winner of the show will get $1 million and be given their own restaurant as well as everything needed to run and operate the restaurant for 1 year. All of the participants looked focused and ready to take on the challenge. Meanwhile, Katie was just smiling at everything that Cypress was saying. Now, let's meet the participants, Cypress says. Chef Isabel Martinez, age 29, born and raised in Mexico City, Isabel grew up immersed in vibrant flavors of her grandmother's kitchen. She moved to the U.S. to study culinary arts and has become a rising star in contemporary Mexican cuisine, blending traditional techniques with modern flair. Isabel's creativity and passion make her a tough competitor. Chef Patrick Callahan, age 32, raised in a family of Irish immigrants in Boston. Patrick grew up helping his parents' small pub, where he discovered his passion for cooking hearty, traditional meals. After culinary school, he traveled through Europe, honing his skills in various Michelin-starred restaurants. Chef Hiroshi Tanaka, age 41. A sushi master from Tokyo, Hiroshi began his career at his family's restaurant. His dedication to perfecting his craft led him to study under some of the greatest sushi chefs in Japan. Hiroshi's precision and meticulous attention to detail are unmatched, making him a respected but intimidating figure in the competition. Chef Angela Dupree, age 35, hailing from New Orleans, Angela's cooking is deeply influenced by rich, spicy flavors of Cajun and Creole cuisine. She runs a popular food truck that has been featured on numerous food shows. Angela's vivacious personality and bold flavors make her a crowd favorite. Chef Katie Thompson, age 30, from New York City. Katie was forced to cook from a young age by her father, but while the other kids were deterred by this, she fell in love with cooking, teaching herself flavors and cooking techniques that stand apart from others. She paid her way into culinary school and she landed a job at one of the top restaurants in all of the world, Lumineer, where she works as a sous chef alongside the famous Chef Otto Gannon. Chef Marco Rossi, age 28. Growing up in a small village in Italy, Marco learned the art of pasta making from his grandmother. After moving to the U.S., he worked his way up in various restaurants. Marco's rustic, home-style Italian dishes are packed with authenticity and heart, earning him a loyal following. Chef Li Na, age 30. Li Na comes from a long line of chefs in Shanghai. She specializes in modern Chinese fusion, combining traditional flavors with contemporary techniques. Her innovative approach and artistic presentation make her a standout in this competition. Chef Raj Patel, age 37. Born in Mumbai, Raj moved to London to pursue his culinary dreams. He is known for his mastery of Indian cuisine and his ability to blend spices in a way to create unforgettable dishes. Raj's disciplined approach and intense focus are his greatest assets in this competition. Chef Emily Harper, age 25. Emily is a self-taught baker from a small town in Vermont. She took over her parents' bakery at the age of 22, gaining local fame for her inventive pastries and desserts. Emily's sweet and friendly demeanor hides a fiercely competitive streak, particularly when it comes to baking challenges. Chef Tomas Silva, age 34. Originally from Brazil, Tomas grew up helping his family run a churrascaria. His expertise in grilling and barbecuing, combined with his flair for incorporating tropical fruits and exotic ingredients, give him a unique edge. Tomas's easygoing nature makes him well-liked amongst his peers. Chef Aisha Khan, age 31. Aisha, born in Morocco and moved to Paris to study at one of the world's most prestigious culinary schools. She specializes in French-Moroccan fusion, creating dishes that are both exotic and elegant. Aisha's refined palate and sophisticated techniques makes her a formidable competitor. Finally, Chef Driscoll Vance, age 38. Driscoll hails from a wealthy New York family and attended one of the finest culinary schools from a young age. He built his reputation in the cutthroat world of haute cuisine, earning accolades but also a reputation for his ruthless ambition and willingness to undermine competitors. His sharp-tongued critiques and underhanded tactics make him a formidable antagonist for the competition. Now that we have met our opponents for the next few weeks, it's time to start our first competition, explained Cypress. It's a simple competition, but crucial. You will all be making your own signature dish. No chains and shackles. Just show the judges who you are and what sets you apart in this competition. Now you have 1 hour, and your time starts now. With that, the competition was underway. The clangs of pots and pans and hum of appliances filled the air as the chefs sprang into action, each working with a determined focus to create a dish that represented their culinary identity. Katie, at her station, moved with confident precision. She had chosen to make her truffle-infused lobster bisque, a dish that had won the hearts of many diners at the Lumineer. As she carefully chopped onions and celery, the aroma of fresh ingredients began to fill her station. She reached for the lobster, expertly breaking it down and setting aside the shell for her bisque base. To her right, Chef Patrick was preparing his signature Irish stew with a modern twist, his station a flurry of activity as he diced lamb and vegetables with practiced ease. On her left, Chef Driscoll was meticulously arranging ingredients for his elaborate foie gras terrain. His eyes occasionally flickered over to Katie's station with a look of calculated interest. Katie moved on to her truffle oil, a secret blend that she had perfected over years of experimentation. As the bisque simmered, she added the truffle essence, its rich, earthy scent mingling with the sweet aroma of the lobster. She tasted the broth, adjusting the seasoning with a satisfied nod. Everything was going smoothly. Around her, the competition was fierce. Chef Isabella was busy blending traditional spices for her mole sauce, while Chef Hiroshi's station was steady in precision as he prepared delicate sushi rolls. The variety of aromas from different cuisines made the studio feel like a global marketplace. Halfway through the competition, the host called out updates, urging the chefs to keep an eye on the clock. Katie remained calm, her bisque reducing to a perfect consistency. She strained the mixture, ensuring the silky smooth texture, and then began preparing her presentation. With 5 minutes left, Katie started plating. She ladled a velvety bisque into an elegant bowl, adding a swirl of cream and a drizzle of truffle oil. She garnished each bowl with a few chive blossoms and a sprinkle of freshly cracked pepper. The final touch was a perfectly cooked lobster claw, perched delicately on the edge of each bowl. As the clock ticked down to the final seconds, the chefs hurried and put the final finishing touches on their dishes. The host counted down the last 10 seconds and then, with a dramatic flourish, called out, "Time's up. Step away from your stations." The judges, a trio of renowned culinary experts, began their rounds. They moved from station to station, sampling dishes and discussing the chef's techniques and flavors. Katie watched with a mix of excitement and nerves as they approached her. The head judge, a stern yet fair chef known for his discerning palate, took a spoonful of her bisque. His expression softened as he tasted, savoring the complex layers of flavor. "The balance of truffle and lobster is exquisite," he remarked, nodding approvingly. The other judges echoed his sentiments, praising her for her dish depth and elegance. As the judges continued their evaluations, Katie felt a wave of relief and pride. She had delivered her best, and it had paid off. Around her, other chefs were receiving their critiques, with Chef Driscoll looking particularly pleased with the feedbacks of his food, while Chef Patrick's modern Irish stew garnered warm praise for its innovative take on a classic. Cypress called the chefs to the front of the set. "Chefs, you've all impressed us with your signature dishes. However, only one of you can be named the winner of this round." He paused, building suspense. And the chef whose dish who stood out the most is Chef Katie, for her truffle-infused lobster bisque. Katie's heart soared as her name was called. She stepped forward, receiving a round of applause from the fellow competitors. Chef Patrick gave her an encouraging nod, while Chef Driscoll's smile was tight and calculated. "Congratulations, Chef Katie," said Cypress. "You've set the bar high for the rest of the competition." Katie couldn't help but smile. This victory was a small step towards proving her worth and breaking free from the shadows. The competition had only just begun, and she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. But now we must talk about the bottom two, Cypress said. Unfortunately, the judges feel that 2 chefs didn't exceed tonight, and one will no longer be with us. The 2 chefs are Chef Emily and Chef Angela. The head judge began speaking. Chef Angela, we felt that your fried oyster po' boy was just not what we want in this competition. I get that that's who you are, and yes, the flavors was surprisingly good, but these are the top chefs in the entire world, and bringing a po' boy is not screaming gourmet. Chef Angela was visibly worried as she started tearing up. I promise to bring better dishes for the rest of the competition. The flavor is right. I promise to incorporate it in more gourmet meals, says Chef Angela. Now for Chef Emily, the judge says. You are this top-notch baker who is wowing the entire Northeast with your pastries. But I can say these cannolis are not worth feeding to my dog. There's a reason why your shop is in the middle of nowhere, Vermont. It's not a real city. It's because you don't have what it takes. There's no question here. You have been sliced. Emily dropped to the floor, and Chef Angela helped pick her back up and hugged her. The terrible feeling that Emily's dreams were crushed right in front of us. The judges seemed so rude to her. They didn't even let her plead her case like they did with Angela. Oh, poor dear. I'm sorry, says Cypress. Chef Emily, you have been sliced. Guards, please remove Emily from this competition. The guards then walk up to Emily, one on each side of her. Emily, wiping tears away from her eyes, says, I'm sorry, judges. The guards then raise their prop axes and whip them towards Emily at an alarming rate. The other competitors watched as blood splattered over their jackets and Emily's head and torso were laying separated on the ground. That is the end of Chapter 1. I told you, you stuck around. You would thank me later, and hopefully I didn't let you down there. So that is going to do it for this Friday evening. Hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, please click that like button, hit that subscribe button. We will see you next week. And as always, thank you for spending a little bit of your Friday evening here with me.